There was a White House reception to celebrate the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr yesterday, which marked the end of Ramadan last month, where President Biden addressed the issue of Islamophobia in the United States.
And we're determined to confront all forms of hate, including Islamophobia, which is important to me. This is a priority for my administration.
Those words may have had a special resonance for one of the people in that audience, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Her district includes the city of Minneapolis, where there has been a string of recent attacks on the Muslim community. Just over a week ago, a man was caught setting a fire in the bathroom of a mosque. He got away. Then the very next evening, there was another fire in another mosque in that city. This time it was a bigger blaze that caused extensive damage and forced an evacuation of about 40 children who were inside when it started. Now, federal agents have arrested 36-year-old Jackie Little, who they say was caught on surveillance video entering the first mosque, and also seen the next day on a bus to the second mosque before the fire there. Little is charged with arson, and he's also a suspect in several other crimes against Muslims. Surveillance video in January appears to show him shoplifting spray paint before going on to the office of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar herself and spray painting the number 500 on her office door. He's also suspected of spray painting the same thing on the patrol car of a Somali police officer and at a local marketplace frequented by the city's Somali community. Federal agents say they don't know the significance of the number 500. But what is significant is that Muslim communities across this country remain vulnerable to vicious and violent Islamophobic attacks. Joining me now is Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota. Congresswoman, thanks for joining me on the show tonight. How has the Muslim community in Minneapolis been affected by these arson attacks at mosques and other crimes targeting you and members of the Somali community?
They're incredibly impacted. Many of them are on edge. They're fearful. They're shocked that there hasn't been denunciation of anti-Muslim violence by many. They are in shock that somebody could set two masjids on fire and there isn't a lot more being done. But the reality, Mehdi, is that when the Muslim community is under attack, we often see people minimize that attack. And many of us have been living in an environment where we know our lives are at risk, that we are vulnerable to attacks from hateful people who hate us because of our faith or countries of origin. And, the general public is not going to be as concerned as they are when other faith groups are attacked.
And Congresswoman, do we know yet if authorities are treating these incidents in Minneapolis as hate crimes?
We do not know yet. What we've been told is that there are more charges to come. This man is charged now with arson for the two fires. They are going to charge him for vandalizing my office, for vandalizing the cop car of the Somali police officer. And there might be other incidents that we don't know yet that might be linked to him as well.
And Congresswoman, we know that anti-Muslim attacks spiked when Donald Trump was president. He's a man who was elected on his promise to ban Muslims. But even in 2021, after he left office, new FBI figures show an 11.6% increase in hate crimes in the United States. A proportion of that, obviously, anti-Muslim hate crimes. President Biden said yesterday he's determined to confront Islamophobia. But is his administration, is the U.S. government at a federal and state level doing enough, in your view, to combat anti-Muslim hate crimes?
So this is something that we've been calling for the administration to address for a while. I actually was talking about this maybe a couple of months ago on the need for the administration to be more forceful and loud in their advocacy for wanting to protect the Muslim community against these kind of violent attacks that we all experience. I am glad to hear the president's announcement. It certainly was welcomed, and it was a sense of relief for a lot of us. the fact that there is a task force looking to address anti-Muslim hate is also welcoming. We are going to continue to make sure the administration takes anti-Muslim hate and violence as seriously as it does other attacks on other faith groups as well.
Of course, this Islamophobia, the racism, the bigotry doesn't come out of nowhere. There are people who incite it. There are people who push it and promote it. I'm thinking of a certain media network who just got rid of their top-rated cable host, Tucker Carlson. As I pointed out on my show on Sunday, we don't know why he was fired, but we do know that he wasn't fired for the racism that he pushed on his show week in, week out for years. They were fine with that. And in fact, you ended up being one of his targets a lot of the time. Have a listen to some of the stuff, some of the vile stuff he said about you.
Ilhan Omar is living proof that the way we practice immigration has become dangerous to this country. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, herself a symbol of America's failed immigration system. Can a single human being actually be as loathsome as Ilhan Omar is? It's hard to believe.
He wasn't fired for any of that. And I've got to ask, Congressman, what was the impact on you, on your family, on your safety, security, when Tucker Carlson targeted you in that way in front of his millions of viewers?
Yeah, I mean, Tucker was the king of hate and loved, fear-mongering and picking on immigrants and Muslims in many cases. This was a man who obviously trafficked the replacement theory. He was a man who was named in many of the manifestos of mass shooters that specifically targeted Muslims. So I can't tell you just how both relieved and terrified I am of where he might end up and the kind of platform that he might end up having. It is really hard to not make people understand. To make people understand just how dangerous this man was and how many lives he risked with his hateful rhetoric on a daily basis.
So it's easy to go after Fox because their bigotry is so open and vile. It's easy to kind of say, look at what Fox has done. What about the liberal media? What about the rest of the media in America? What about liberal politicians in your party? When we talk about Islamophobia, both in general and also the attacks on you, how much do you think the liberal media and liberal politicians in this country take it seriously, or has Islamophobia just become normalized?
It is normalized. It's misunderstood. It's something that a lot of people, whether they're in Congress, in positions of influence, whether they're part of the media, whether they are in the entertainment business, they traffic in, and I think it's something that people don't actually consider to be problematic. Fostering hate towards Muslims is just fine, and I do hope that people realize that we are human beings. We have families. We should have access to the religious liberties that exist in this country and should be free of fear to be able to pray and carry on with our lives. Earlier, I said, it's shocking to me that 2 masjids could be set on fire, that a member of Congress's office could be vandalized, and the way in which people are talking about it or dismissing it, can be accepted. This is a scary moment for our community. That report that you referenced earlier, 11% increase was barely a headline for many of the papers that are out there or news shows. I think you might be one of the only ones who ever addresses it, and I think it's shocking to continue to live in an environment where we are afraid as a religious minority in this community and people not care.
It is shocking, and I wish more people were covering this. I'm glad you were able to come on tonight and talk about this, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. We will have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.